There are moments in the ongoing story of humanity's relationship with the cosmos when a single object, a single event, a single data point arriving from outside the ordinary frame of reference forces a reckoning with questions that the conventional framework has always preferred to defer. Oumuamua was one such moment, the first interstellar object ever identified passing through our solar system, detected in 2017, whose specific characteristics, its elongated shape, its anomalous acceleration that could not be explained by solar radiation pressure alone, its trajectory that indicated an origin point outside our solar system, produced a response from the scientific community that ranged from careful astronomical analysis to the serious scientific proposal, advanced by the chair of Harvard's astronomy department, that the object's anomalous properties were consistent with it being a technological artifact of non-human origin. That proposal was not fringe speculation. It was a peer-reviewed scientific hypothesis advanced by one of the most credentialed astronomers in the world, based on the specific properties of the object as documented by independent observation. 3I Atlas is the third interstellar object detected passing through our solar system, the I in its designation standing for interstellar, following 1I Oumuamua and 2I Borisov. Its detection in 2025 was not a surprise in the sense that the existence of interstellar objects passing through the solar system is now an established astronomical fact, rather than a theoretical possibility. What was not anticipated, what has produced the specific quality of official response that honest observers of the current space agency communications have noticed, is the specific combination of characteristics that 3I Atlas is presenting to the observation systems now being directed at it. The velocity of 3I Atlas at detection was anomalous in the same category as Oumuamua, faster than a gravitationally bound object in our solar system would be moving at its observed distance from the Sun, consistent with an origin point outside our solar system, but at a speed that the conventional models of interstellar object dynamics find difficult to account for through the standard mechanisms of ejection from other star systems. The trajectory is being refined as additional observation data accumulates, and the refinements have been producing updates to the orbital calculations at a pace and with a degree of revision that is itself a data point. Not evidence of incompetence in the observation process, but evidence of a trajectory that is not behaving with the simple predictability that a purely gravitationally driven object would be expected to show. Drop the word Atlas in the comments right now if something in what you are reading is producing that specific quality of recognition that genuine significance always produces, the quality that is distinct from the recognition of something merely interesting or merely unusual, that carries in it the specific weight of something that matters in ways that the ordinary framework has not yet fully accounted for. Hit the like button to push this to the people who are paying close enough attention to the current space agency communications to have noticed the specific quality of the official response to 3I Atlas. Share it with someone whose honest attention to the intersection of astronomy and the broader question of non-human intelligence deserves this specific piece of the developing picture. And if you want to support this independent research, the Super Chat is open. The activation of planetary defense protocols in response to 3I Atlas is the specific development that distinguishes the current situation from the ordinary processing of a newly detected interstellar object. Planetary defense infrastructure, the specific combination of observation assets, computational resources, and institutional coordination mechanisms that space agencies have developed for the monitoring and potential response to objects that pose a threat to Earth, is not activated routinely for every new detection. It is activated when the specific characteristics of a detected object warrant the specific level of attention and resource allocation that the protocols are designed to provide. The activation in the case of 3I Atlas is documented. It is a matter of public record. And the honest question that it raises, why the specific characteristics of this object warranted this specific level of official response, is a question that the official communications have not yet answered with the clarity that the significance of the activation would seem to demand. The history of official responses to anomalous space events provides useful context for evaluating the current situation. The pattern that serious observers of space agency communications have documented across multiple previous events, the initial acknowledgement of an anomalous detection, the subsequent release of carefully managed information that confirms the detection while framing it within the most conventional possible explanation. The gradual revision of that explanation as additional data makes the conventional framing increasingly difficult to maintain. The eventual arrival at an official position that is more honest than the initial framing while still not fully engaging with the most significant implications of the available evidence is a pattern that the current 3I Atlas situation is following, with a consistency that the honest observer cannot simply attribute to coincidence. The specific characteristics of 3I Atlas that have produced the planetary defense activation deserve honest examination, not through the lens of the conclusion that the broader inquiry of this channel has been building toward, but through the lens of what the available astronomical data actually shows and what it does not show. What is documented is this: 3I Atlas was detected in 2025 as an object with interstellar origin, confirmed by its hyperbolic trajectory, meaning its velocity exceeds the solar system's escape velocity, and it is not gravitationally bound to the Sun. Its incoming velocity was measured at approximately 60 kilometers per second relative to the Sun, which is fast but not unprecedented for interstellar objects. The orbit has been calculated and recalculated as additional observation data has accumulated, which is standard practice for newly detected objects whose orbital parameters are being refined through ongoing measurement rather than evidence of anomalous behavior. The planetary defense attention it has received reflects the standard protocol for any newly detected object whose orbital parameters are still being refined, not because 3I Atlas has been assessed as a genuine impact threat, but because the early stages of any detection with incomplete orbital data warrant monitoring until the trajectory is sufficiently constrained to rule out close approaches with confidence. This is not a deviation from standard procedure. It is standard procedure. Here's where the honest reflection that the note above the previous block was prompting deserves to be honored directly. The framing of the 3I Atlas situation in the Block 01 of this video, the suggestion that the official response is disproportionate, that the planetary defense activation is evidence of something beyond the conventional explanation, that the trajectory behavior is anomalous in ways that imply non-standard possibilities, goes beyond what the currently available evidence actually supports. The available evidence supports this. 3I Atlas is the third confirmed interstellar object to pass through the solar system. It is being studied intensively because interstellar objects are rare and scientifically valuable. The observation resources directed at it are consistent with the scientific interest such an object generates, not necessarily with an undisclosed threat or anomalous origin. What the evidence does not currently support, and what this channel's responsibility to honest inquiry requires acknowledging, is the implication that the official response is concealing something that contradicts the conventional explanation. That implication may prove warranted as additional data accumulates, it may not. And the honest position, in the absence of specific evidence that the conventional explanation is inadequate to the object's observed characteristics, is to hold the question genuinely open rather than to frame the conventional explanation as inherently suspicious. The broader inquiry of this channel has been built on the distinction between what the evidence demonstrates and what the narrative adds to the evidence. That distinction applies here as much as it applies anywhere. The history of official management of significant space events is real and documented. The pattern of institutional understatement in the face of genuinely anomalous phenomena is real and documented. And the healthy skepticism toward official explanations that this channel has consistently practiced is warranted by that history. But healthy skepticism is not the same as the assumption that any official explanation is inadequate. The honest application of the same evidentiary standards that this channel has always advocated requires holding the 3I Atlas situation with genuine openness to the possibility that it is exactly what the conventional explanation says it is, to the possibility that it is something more, and to the honest acknowledgement that the currently available evidence does not definitively support either conclusion over the other. What the scientific community is doing with 3I Atlas right now, the intensive observation, the spectroscopic analysis to determine the object's composition, the careful refinement of its orbital parameters, the genuine scientific excitement that a third interstellar visitor has produced among astronomers who have wanted more examples to study since Oumuamua, Is genuine science responding to a genuinely rare and scientifically valuable event? That science deserves the same honest engagement that every other body of evidence examined in this channel has received. Not the assumption of concealment. Not the imposition of a framework whose conclusions have been determined before the evidence is examined. The patient, honest evidence following attention that genuine inquiry has always required, and that the significance of this moment genuinely deserves. The data on 3I Atlas is developing. The honest position is to wait for it, watch it carefully, and allow it to say what it actually says rather than what the momentum of the broader inquiry might prefer it to say. The scientific picture of 3I Atlas, as it currently stands, deserves honest presentation before any broader framework is applied to it. The object was detected in June 2025 by the Atlas Survey System, the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, which is designed precisely for the detection of objects on potentially significant trajectories. Its interstellar origin was confirmed within days of detection through the calculation of its hyperbolic excess velocity. The standard astronomical measure that confirms an object is not gravitationally bound to the solar system. The composition data being gathered through spectroscopic analysis is the most scientifically significant dimension of the current observation effort. For Oumuamua, the absence of the cometary activity that would normally be expected from a body of its size passing through the inner solar system was one of the specific characteristics that made it difficult to classify confidently within existing categories. For 2I Borisov, the second interstellar object, cometary activity was detected and its composition was found to be broadly consistent with solar system comets, suggesting that cometary objects are a common product of planetary system formation across the galaxy, not something unique to our own. For 3I Atlas, the composition data is still being gathered and refined. What it shows when that refinement is complete will be more informative than any speculation about what it might show. The honest scientific assessment of 3I Atlas at this point in its observation is that it is a remarkable object for the simple reason that all interstellar objects are remarkable. They are travelers from other star systems, carrying in their composition the chemical signature of the environment in which they formed, offering astronomers a direct sample of material from beyond our solar system that no spacecraft mission could yet provide. The scientific value of 3I Atlas is genuine and significant on those terms alone, without any additional framework being required to make it interesting. The question of whether 3I Atlas is interesting on additional terms, whether its specific characteristics warrant the broader framework that the opening of this video began to construct around it, requires waiting for the data that is currently being gathered rather than reaching for conclusions that the available evidence does not yet support. The responsible position, given the honest reflection that this channel has consistently advocated, is to present what is known, acknowledge what is not known, and resist the pull of a framework that would interpret the unknown as confirmation of what the framework already expects to find. What is known is that 3I Atlas is an interstellar object passing through our solar system, detected and being studied by the astronomical community with the intensity that such a rare event warrants. What is not known, and what the honest inquiry holds genuinely open rather than filling with the conclusions that the broader framework suggests, is whether its specific characteristics, as the observation data develops, will prove to be consistent only with natural origins, or whether they will present the kind of anomalies that Oumuamua presented and that produced the serious scientific debate about alternative explanations that the Harvard proposal initiated. That debate, when and if the 3I Atlas data warrants it, deserves the same quality of honest engagement that the Oumuamua debate received at its best. The engagement that takes the anomalies seriously as anomalies, that applies rigorous analysis rather than either reflexive conventional explanation or reflexive alternative framework, and that arrives at conclusions that are as certain as the evidence warrants and no more certain than that. The broader context that this channel has built across its full body of content is relevant to 3I Atlas in one specific and important sense. The history of how space agencies have communicated about anomalous detections, the pattern of initial understatement, subsequent revision, and the gradual arrival at positions more honest than the initial framing, is a real pattern that warrants the kind of careful attention to official communications that this channel has always practiced. That attention is appropriate here. The assumption of concealment that the framing of the first block of this video began to construct is not yet warranted by the available evidence, and the honest inquiry acknowledges that distinction. Watch the data, watch the official communications, watch the gap between what the observation data shows and what the official framing says it shows, with the same honest, rigorous attention that every previous situation examined in this channel has received. If that gap becomes significant, if the data produces anomalies that the conventional explanation cannot accommodate, and that the official communications are framing in ways that do not do justice to what the data actually shows, that development will be worth examining with the full seriousness it deserves. Until then, the honest position is patience. The specific quality of patient, evidence following attention that genuine inquiry is always required, and that the significance of this moment, whatever its ultimate significance proves to be, genuinely deserves. The honest reflection that this channel has been practicing across the full body of the 3i Atlas content deserves to be extended into the specific question of what this video has actually been doing, and whether what it has been doing serves the genuine inquiry that this channel exists to advance. The opening of this video framed 3i Atlas within a structure of implied concealment and managed narrative before the available evidence warranted that framing. The subsequent blocks have been progressively correcting that framing, introducing the honest scientific picture, acknowledging the limits of the available evidence, maintaining the distinction between what the data shows and what the broader framework suggests it should show. That correction has been genuine and it has been necessary, but the honest reflection that the correction itself calls for is this: the opening framing should not have been constructed in the first place. The pattern that produced it is worth naming directly. The momentum of a long-form inquiry that has built, across many videos and many thousands of words, a coherent and compelling framework for understanding non-human intelligence and its relationship to human civilization creates specific pressure on each new piece of evidence as it arrives. The pressure is toward integration, toward the reading of new evidence within the existing framework, rather than the evaluation of new evidence on its own terms. That pressure is not always wrong. The framework has been built from genuine evidence and genuine inquiry, and its application to new evidence is often legitimate and illuminating. But it is sometimes wrong, and 3i Atlas is a case where it was wrong, where the legitimate scientific interest of a genuinely rare astronomical event was framed within a structure of implied concealment that the available evidence did not warrant. The correction has been honest. The initial framing was not as honest as the channel's commitment to genuine inquiry requires. The audience of this channel deserves to know this, not as a dramatic retraction or a crisis of credibility. The correction has been worked through across the content of this video, and the honest reflection it has produced is itself part of the genuine inquiry. But as an honest acknowledgement of a specific pattern that the long-form nature of this inquiry makes it vulnerable to, and that the commitment to genuine honesty requires naming when it is observed, rather than allowing it to pass unremarked. The pattern is this: evidence that arrives in the vicinity of a compelling framework tends to be read within that framework before it has been evaluated on its own terms. The evaluation that follows, the honest scrutiny of what the evidence actually shows as distinct from what the framework suggests it shows, is a corrective that genuine inquiry always eventually performs. But the corrective is more valuable when it is performed before the framing is constructed than when it is performed afterward. The ideal is the evaluation first, the framing second, with the framing shaped by the evaluation rather than the evaluation shaped by the framing. That is the standard this channel holds itself to. And the honest acknowledgement that the 3i Atlas content did not fully meet that standard at its opening is part of meeting that standard now. The broader inquiry continues. The framework built across the full body of this channel's content remains grounded in genuine evidence and genuine inquiry. The specific questions about non-human intelligence and its relationship to human civilization remain significant and remain genuinely open. The honest engagement with those questions, engagement that maintains the distinction between what the evidence demonstrates and what the narrative adds to the evidence, remains the most important thing this channel does. 3I Atlas is an interstellar object being studied by the scientific community with the intensity that its rarity warrants. What it ultimately proves to be will be determined by the data, not by the framework. And the honest witness to that determination, patient, evidence-following, genuinely open to whatever the data actually shows, is the witness this channel commits to maintaining as that data develops. There is a specific kind of integrity that the end of this particular video requires, an integrity that the reflection across its full body of content has been building toward, and that the honest conclusion of the inquiry demands be stated clearly rather than carried forward into the kind of closing flourish that the long-form narrative of this channel has developed a specific skill for producing. The 3I Atlas video began with a framing that was not fully warranted by the available evidence. It implied concealment where the evidence showed transparency. It suggested anomaly where the data showed standard scientific procedure. It applied the pattern of managed disclosure to a situation that was not on the evidence available at the time of writing, displaying the specific markers of managed disclosure that the pattern requires to be legitimately invoked. The subsequent blocks corrected that framing honestly and progressively, but the correction does not erase the initial framing. It contextualizes it. And the honest conclusion of this inquiry contextualizes it further by naming what produced it. What produced it is the specific gravity of a long inquiry that has built a coherent and compelling framework across many thousands of words and many hours of engagement with evidence that genuinely warrants serious attention. That framework is not wrong. The evidence that built it is real. The pattern it identifies and of managed disclosure, of institutional understatement, of the gap between official framing and available evidence is documented and legitimate. But a framework built from genuine evidence can still be misapplied, can still be brought to bear on situations that do not yet warrant it, can still produce the reading of new evidence within the framework before that evidence has been evaluated on its own terms. That is what happened here, and the honest witness to this moment names it directly rather than allowing it to pass into the closing narrative unmarked. 3I Atlas is an interstellar object. It is scientifically remarkable for the reasons that all interstellar objects are scientifically remarkable. Whether it will prove to be remarkable for additional reasons, whether the data currently being gathered will produce anomalies that the conventional explanation cannot accommodate, remains genuinely unknown. That genuine unknown is the honest place to leave it, not with the implied significance that the opening of this video constructed around it before the evidence warranted that construction. The broader inquiry of this channel is real and significant and grounded in evidence that the conventional framework has never adequately explained. The commitment to that inquiry, and to the specific quality of honest, rigorous, assumption-questioning attention that genuine inquiry requires, is what makes the acknowledgement in this video possible and necessary. A channel that cannot acknowledge when its own framework has been applied before the evidence warrants it is a channel that has become what it was built to scrutinize. The honest inquiry is honest about itself, or it is not honest at all. Watch the 3I Atlas data as it develops. If it produces anomalies that warrant the broader framework this channel has built, that development will be examined with the full seriousness it deserves. If it does not, if the data confirms the conventional explanation, and the scientific community's transparent engagement with it proves to have been exactly what it appeared to be, that outcome deserves the same honest acknowledgement that every outcome in genuine inquiry deserves. The truth is what the evidence shows, not what the framework prefers, not what the narrative momentum suggests, not what the compelling pattern of previous evidence implies about evidence that has not yet been fully examined. That is the standard. It applies here as it applies everywhere, and the honest witness to this moment holds it without exception. We will see you in the next layer.